Hello and welcome. This is Heavy Business. I'm Aaliyah,
And I'm Curtis.
and today we are here with the guitarist for War Curse and Blessed Black, Joshua Murphy. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
We're um we're really excited to have you here to talk about a few different topics, but let's dive in first by asking you to please describe to our viewers, our listeners, who you are and what you do within the realms of metal.
Yeah, so I am a longtime touring musician, also a instrument tech, backline tech. So I play lead guitar in War Curse, Metal Blade Records, Blacklight Media signed band. I also play guitar and sing in a band called Blessed Black. And then in my other capacity, I am a guitar, drum, instrument backline tech for a lot of bands. A lot of people have probably heard of and been listening to for a long time. So that's pretty much the summary of it. Yeah.
You should say who the bands are, Murphy.
Um, I've been really fortunate, man. I've got to work with a lot of my favorite bands over the last several years, especially. I've been out with Exodus quite a bit. Done a lot of fly gigs, one-off gigs. I got to do the 70,000 tons of metal cruise with them as well. Um, I got my start working for Exhorder, who are good friends of ours, and also former. We've done tours together, or small shows, small runs of shows together. And Jason Vibrooks, their bass player, is actually one of my closest friends, and that's how I got my start. This past December, I got the chance to guitar tech slash pretty much tech for the entire band for my favorite band of all time, which is High on Fire, and which was a very, very cool thing for me. And then through that tour, I have just acquired a run that I'm going out with. I leave in about a week, actually, a week from tomorrow. I leave for a 4-week run with Municipal Waste, which is going to be great. We're going out with Carcass, and I can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
That is so awesome. Now, I'm wondering how you got into to being an instrument tech.
It's one of
Can you
those
tell us
things.
that story?
Yeah, I mean, it's like it was just an opportunity that presented itself to me. It was one of those things where you make connections. You guys know how it is in the music industry. Everything is about who you know. It's about networking and who you've met, and first impressions go a long way. And so with teching, so Exhorder was my first gig. Now their bass player Jason used to be in War Curse, and so when he left War Curse to go full time and do Exhorder, clearly we're all still close friends. We still hang out. I actually work with him in my day job every day. He's my boss. So he knew that as funny as it is, I'm a lead guitar player, but I'm really good with working with drums. I play drums as well, just kind of not in an official capacity anymore. But I've always been really good at tuning and maintaining and the technical aspects of drumming, especially. So they had a tour, and the other guitar player in our band, who you guys have had on, Justin Roth, had been doing some tech work for them as far as guitars and some tour managing as well. And they decided they wanted to take a drum tech. And so they asked me if I would go. And it sounded like a great time. I had never done any tech work in the past, but I knew that I would had the skill set as long as I was willing to go out and do the tour. So I said, yeah, sure, let's try it. And that was my first tour as an official tech, was drum teching for Exhorder.
Can
So
you
what
kind
is
of oh go-
can you describe the day in a life of the touring tech?
Yeah. So it's funny. It really depends on the band you're working with, but most of the time, your time as a tech starts. You're one of the first people in the venue, and generally one of the last people out of the venue. So, on a normal day, say on this past tour I just did in December with High on Fire, we would have load in time. It can vary depending on the venue and the availability of people to let you in. Generally, somewhere between noon and 1 seems to be pretty standard industry load in for larger tours. So we would load in, which load in on that tour, it can vary, depends on your crew. So with that tour, it was myself, our front of house guy, our tour manager, and then our merch guy would also help, and everybody would kind of pitch in. And generally, when you do an advance for the show, you want to have in there, hey, give us 2 or 3 stagehands to help us load in and out. Whether or not the venue takes the time to actually provide that is hit and miss sometimes. But so you get to the venue, you load in. Depending on your order in the lineup, if you're main act, you're headlining, usually you get the stage first. If you're not, if you're a support band, you will kind of go down the pecking order. Headliner will sound check, and then you'll get the stage in when it comes time for you to get it. So my job basically is to get all the instruments out immediately, especially if I'm doing guitars. You want guitars out immediately, and then we do our sound check, and then my job is to just go through, change strings, adjust anything that may have shifted on the guitars, make sure the backline's working correctly, make sure the drums are tuned, make sure anything that needs to be taken care of that could cause any kind of headache during the show. My job is basically to put out fires before they start. So the goal is to have a night where I essentially get to watch the show, because if I do my job well, that's what I get to do. I stand side stage and I make sure that nothing goes wrong. And on a good night, I watch a great show and everything's good. Sometimes things go crazy, and your job at that point is to find a resolution as fast as you possibly can. And so at the end of the night, you pack everything up and you load out, and you either get into your bus or your van or your bandwagon, and you make your way to the next city and start all over again. That's really it. Yeah.
I wanted to kind of follow up. You kind of already went into this, but can you go into a little bit of more detail of like what the job would be like? What, like for a drum tech, like what do they do?
So with drums, a really common thing, right when you get in, you want to get all your drums out of the cases. And usually, it just depends. Like I said, if you're a headliner, you may get the drum riser immediately. And so you'll go ahead and go right on stage and you'll build right there. Otherwise, usually I find a spot out on the floor or in the backstage area where I can go ahead and get the rug down, get the kit built, get everything set up. At that point, really what I do is I go through and I just want to kind of fine tune everything. Check things, is the hardware still solid? Is everything, working correctly? Does something need to be tightened down? Is something loose? Are the heads looking old? Do we need to replace them? If the heads need to be replaced, I go ahead and take care of that immediately, get them tuned up, stretch them out. Same thing with guitar strings. You got to, drum heads also stretch. A lot of people don't realize that, but a fresh snare head, you tune it up, and if your drummer plays on it for 20 minutes, it's already detuned. So you need to tune it up, kind of put some weight on it, stretch it out, and then work it back a few times and get it going. But the main thing is just to make sure that when your drummer sits down behind the drum kit, they don't have to think about anything besides playing their drums. So everything is where they like it. And that's something that I kind of pride myself on. One of the first time I got to work with Tom from Exodus was a fortuitous kind of thing where we happened to be on tour with Exhorter, and we crossed paths at a venue where there was kind of a mini festival going on in Atlanta. It was the Masquerade in Atlanta. And they had a huge show going on in all the different rooms. And so Workhorse's manager, Cragen, was filling in for Exodus on guitar because Gary was still out with Slayer at the time. And so he basically said, hey, you guys are going to be here. Do you want a tech for Exodus today as well? We don't have any techs on hand. And so I said, yeah, my God, like Tom's one of my favorite drummers ever. So it was great. And basically what I did at that point, and this is just how my brain works, as soon as he told me I was going to be doing that, I jump online, I find a bunch of photos of Tom's kit, and I start looking at where everything is. Because I don't want to be blind out there. You know what I mean? I don't want to jump up on stage and think, okay, this is how his kit's set up. And it's not. So basically I look at a bunch of photos, I get an idea, okay, he likes his, hi-hats here, he likes his other hi-hats here, he likes his crashes kind of low. And that way I could jump in, and it made things go really smooth. And actually, I think smooth enough to the point where I got a call back from him after that. So that stuff like that goes a long way. If you just take a little bit of time to do a little bit of homework, it goes a really long way. We did Psycho Vegas with Exodus maybe 2 years ago now. Yeah, 2 years ago. And Tom was actually out because he had to have his stomach removed because he had cancer. Um, and so at that point, they had John Tempesta come in and play drums for him. And, John, I grew up, I'm 41 years old. So White Zombie was gigantic when I was a kid. And so getting to tech for John was like a dream come true for me. It was really cool. And I did the same thing. I communicated with him. I said, hey, man, send me a couple pictures of your kit. So when we show up at this place, I don't have to think about what I'm doing. And it was a really, really proud moment for me that we showed up at Psycho. I got his kit together and he walked up and he went to sit down and move everything. And he just kind of looked and he was like, you nailed it. I don't have to move anything. It's good. That's it's a great feeling. You know what I mean? So, but overall, yeah, the day in the life of a drum tech is just making sure that everything is functional. Trying not to get hurt. Drum hardware, I promise you, is designed to pinch your fingers. So, get through the day without smashing anything or hurting anything, and then, get everything put away and get back on the bus.
So as a bit of a follow-up to that, because this is more business focused, obviously, for the podcast.
Yeah.
What would be the skill set required to be a drum or guitar tech other than just knowing the instruments, unless that is all you need to know?
Well, so I mean, there's some things that you need to know as far as like you need to be proficient with the ins and out of an instrument. I'm not saying you need to be able to build a guitar or do the highest level of luthiery skills for a guitar, but you need to know how to do a setup, change strings, troubleshoot problems. And a lot of it is just being able to think on your feet. Like for instance, with Exodus, we did the Full Terror Assault Festival. Exodus brought Rick Hunolt, their former guitar player, with them as kind of a treat for the fans. Rick came up and played like 2 or 3 songs with them. And because it was kind of a last minute thing, they didn't have anything on their backline rider for Rick. So now there was enough gear there, but we're like in the middle of literally the intro is rolling and Rick's guitar rig is not working. And so at that point, how fast can you put out that fire? How fast can you figure out a way to make this work and not panic and keep your head about you? That goes a long way. So like that's huge. But honestly, the number one thing you need to be able to do to be a touring tech is to be able to tour. And that goes a long, long way. Can you be on a bus with a bunch of people and not be a problem and not be bothersome to be around and to be a pleasant person and to just be able to be out there and tour easily and be easy to tour with? That goes further than anything.
Okay. Anything else, like any other type of skill sets that you might need to know other than what you said?
It never hurts to know a little bit about audio, I think.
Okay.
So I run front of house at a local venue here in town called the Southgate House Revival. It's about a 500 cap room. We get a lot of great shows coming through. And I've been running front of house there off and on for the last 7 or 8 years. So that always is helpful because if you go out and there's an audio problem, you can help your front of house guy troubleshoot it fast and you guys can get through it. So it's never a bad thing to have audio skills, but I don't necessarily think that they're required. It's just the more skills you have, the more valuable you become and the more likely you are to get called back.
That answered that question.
You mentioned just being a good person to tour with.
Yeah.
Do you have any like tips on how to do that?
So it's hard for me. I'm a very talkative, outgoing, big personality kind of person, and I'm kind of loud naturally. I'm very, very loud. I am a very loud person, and so I had to kind of learn quickly how to dial that back when you get onto a bus with a bunch of people who may or may not be having the same kind of day you had. So, I mean, I think a lot of it is being able to kind of read the room. If you're on the bus and you can see that so-and-so is having a rough time, maybe leave them alone. Maybe go find your bunk, maybe go outside if you're parked and you guys are somewhere, and just, but overall, I mean, a lot of it's just making sure that whatever you're dealing with, because we all have lives, we all have things going on, isn't a part of what they're dealing with. So I just try to be invisible when I need to be. And then otherwise, I try to stay pretty positive, which thankfully I'm generally just a positive person. So it makes it easy. I've been thankful for that. It was something I learned early on, and just being able to determine how to make people comfortable around you goes a long way in life in general, but especially on tour.
For sure. Now, I realize that you knew somebody who knew somebody, and that's how you got into
Yes.
teching. Is there a way for people to get into doing this if they don't know anybody?
So the number one way I see a lot of people that start out is get a job at a local venue. Find out the venue where like the bands that you love are playing in town, and go, talk to them and get a job. Start out doing stagehand work. A lot of any major city is going to have stagehand companies where your job for that day may be just literally pushing road cases and then loading in and loading out, and that's your whole day. But like every major city, even smaller cities, any venue is going to have people on staff that are there to help out, and you can get your start. You may not know anything about anything, but you might just love music and want to be around live music, and go in, get a job at a local venue. If you don't have any connections in the industry, that's a good way to make them. Be helpful when national artists come through and they need something. Be around, be there, make them feel like you're giving them what they need, and network. Which not everybody knows how to, but like that's the biggest skill I can tell you that I've always been able to fall back on, is the fact that I do know how to network with people, and I know how to make a good first impression and then follow up on that, because that goes super far. But I think if I didn't play guitar, if I didn't play drums, and I just wanted to be a part of the music industry, that's what I would do. I would get a job as a stagehand, and just at the very least, that then you're a part of the show at some capacity.
And that seems like a job where you may not need to have any particular skill set. It's like,
can you show up on time? Can you lift something and push a road case? Can
right,
you
yeah.
Can you deal with the fact that you're not going to get paid very much money?
Right.
But I mean, like, really, in reality, Murphy, what you said about the networking thing, I mean, that's really the key.
That's this entire industry. What I do. That's this entire industry.
Well, exactly. That's how Aaliyah met me. That's how I met you. I mean, it's all.
I wasn't trying to network.
You still did. You still did, though. But
you weren't trying, but you were. You're so good at it that you weren't even trying.
Yeah, I guess so.
But can you go over networking just a little bit, because I do think it's an important thing, and it's a lot of people are smarmy about it.
And try to make it brief, because we do want to talk about your bands too.
I'll make it quick. So basically, man, for networking for me is like, try to make a good first impression. If you see someone that you think you would like to meet for one reason or another, maybe they're in a position that you'd love to be in, maybe they have experience with something you'd like to learn, introduce yourself, be brief, be helpful, but just overall, just don't be afraid. Most people are willing to give you a little bit of their time if you approach them in a respectful, nice manner. And literally, there are times when I will say, "Hey, man, listen, like, I would love to be able to follow up and network with you a little bit." And it's okay to just say that. Hey, man, can I get your email? Can I get your phone number, your Instagram, whatever you want to use to do that? I'd love to connect with you again on something, or, I think that we operate in the same worlds. How can I stay in touch? It's that easy. It really is. And then, like, do the work, follow up, send an email, say, "Hey, man, it was cool to meet you," or, "Hey, whoever it was you happened to be speaking to, send him or her an email, a text, a phone call, whatever it is, and just follow up." And it's that simple.
So easy, and most people don't fucking do it.
It's really, like, literally easy. There's nothing hard about it.
Yeah, even if you just meet the person, you can just send them an Instagram message right after, so you don't forget. "Nice meeting you."
Right. Most of us are accessible somewhere online these days.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, it was great meeting you tonight, cool talking to you, I followed you on Facebook or on Instagram, and then just little stuff, that they make a cool post, like it, respond to it, comment on it. It's so easy to network now. We have like 8 million social media platforms to do it. So,
and you can find someone on one of them 99.9% of the time.
You can, and if you're not weird about it, they will be cool about it.
Right. Let's move on to talking about music. You are in 2 bands and you do touring tech. How do you manage to balance all of that?
Okay, so it's a lot.
Yeah.
It can be a lot. So, you guys have had Justin Roth, the guitar player in Workhorse, on your podcast, I think multiple times at this point.
Yes.
Three.
So,
Yep.
Justin, I will say forever, is an absolute workhorse, and he does so much of the work for Workhorse that he takes a lot off of all of our shoulders. He has always taken that on, and I'm so thankful and grateful for it, because we would never have gotten to where we have gotten, and I wouldn't personally be where I am in the music industry if it weren't for the fact that he works so hard. I will never take that away from him. But I do try to be like a contributing member of that band as much in any capacity as I can be. Anything that I can do to contribute to that, I do. But thankfully, between Cragen and Justin, these days, Workhorse requires less of me than it ever has. So, although it can be with any band, it still requires a lot of time. And Blessed Black's very easy. Blessed Black is me and 3 of my friends who get together a couple times a week, write songs that we think are cool, and book shows when we have time to book it. It's always been very much a passion project, and very just, the whole goal was to, I started Blessed Black when I came off of a tour for Workhorse, and I was like, man, it'd be cool to like just play some music for fun and do something different and play some of the music that I listen to. I love thrash metal. Love thrash. I love all heavy metal, really, but like, I love thrash. I grew up with thrash. But my day-to-day listening, I listen to a lot more like doom and 70s kind of fuzzed out doom metal and stoner rock than I do a lot of thrash. So I kind of thought it'd be fun to play something like that. But yeah, it can be a juggling act for sure. Sometimes it's like, hey, I would love to go play this Blessed Black show, but I'm going to be on tour with Workhorse that month. Or, hey, Workhorse is about to book a tour. Oh crap, I've got a show in the middle of this tour with Blessed Black. How can I make this work? It can be tough sometimes. You've got to really stay on your stuff.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Blessed Black hasn't done much touring other than mainly regional, correct?
Yeah, that's it. We've never done any touring. So it's not that I wouldn't like to do it. It's just it hasn't been in the cards thus far. So we've done some regional dates here and there. And usually, if we do anything, it's a weekend. And it's going to probably be like that. I mean, I'm not saying never that I'd love to take the band out and do like a week or 2 of dates. I do think that we're genuinely a good band, and I'd love to get it out on the road and have people hear it more in a larger capacity. But like this whole question comes back to, is it's a matter of timing. It's can you find the time between having a day job, having a home life, touring as a tech, touring with Workhorse, and recording records and all that stuff. Sometimes you just do what you can.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now you also have different roles in Workhorse and Blessed Black. So can you kind of go over the differences?
Yeah, kind of. So I mean, Justin's a primary songwriter in Workhorse.
Mm-hmm.
He gets help from Blaine and I. I do contribute riffs and where I can, and I write all the solos for Workhorse. With Blessed Black, I'm the primary songwriter. So I also still play lead guitar, and I'm also the vocalist, and I write all the lyrics, which can be probably the hardest thing, I think, is the lyrics. That's the big
challenging.
It is, because I've always, I always feel the pressure in a way when it comes to writing lyrics. I'm gonna bend this light down a little more. There we go.
Especially with stoner rock, I would.
Well, we're kind of in a very melodic genre, and if you have corny lyrics, everyone's gonna hear it. It's not like I'm up there screaming, you know what I mean?
Yes,
I'm singing. And not only that, like I just wanted to make sure that I gave it the respect it deserved and took the time to write something that I want to put out there. Our first album was real nerdy. It was actually a concept album based on some fantasy books that I grew up with that I loved. And I never would even know if anybody was going to listen to it or hear it. But like, um, the newer stuff has been more based on real life stuff, things that I've gone through the last few years, things that I've watched other people who are close to me go through the last few years, and that's pretty much where I've been living lyrically the last couple of years with Blessed Black. It's definitely a different hat to wear though. It's playing lead guitar in Workhorse has been its own challenge. Trying to make sure that I'm progressing with my skill set and adding, uh, you know, as the band does more and more, making sure that my role in the band is continuing to keep pace with that by playing better leads, doing cooler stuff. But with Blessed Black, it feels a little harder sometimes, but it's more rewarding, I think, sometimes too.
I wanted to quickly ask you, just randomly though, if the vocal position ever became open for Workhorse, would you be considered for the vocal position? Just out of curiosity.
I don't think that I'm not a thrash vocalist. Not that
Okay.
not to say that I couldn't be, but I don't know that. I think there's a lot of guys who are really great frontmen. Blaine is a great frontman. Our frontman before him, Tarek, was a phenomenal frontman too. And like, I feel very comfortable fronting a band with a guitar on, but fronting a band with a microphone in my hand and nothing else, I don't know that that would be a comfortable spot for me. So I don't think that if for some reason Workhorse were to ever need another vocalist, forbid that, because I would hate it. Yeah. I'm super happy with Blaine and everything he's brought to the band, but I don't think I'd be the guy. No, I think we would have to find somebody else.
Fair enough. Was curious.
Yeah.
So with Workhorse,
Yeah.
what was it? How did being on Svart Records sort of change things for your band?
Um, Svart was a really pleasant experience for us, honestly. So our first record label actually came across us pretty well thanks to Curtis. It was Static Tension Records, and nothing but great things to say about Kyle and Static Tension. Like the whole process was super cool. And then Svart just felt like taking a step larger, but kind of staying in that same vein where like Svart had better connections. Obviously, they're a larger label. They had more means to help us advance the band. And they seemed interested in what we were doing, which is always a good feeling. But other than that, it still felt very casual, as far as the way things were talked about. Now I'll be the first to tell you I wasn't privy to all of the business conversations because, like I said, Justin handles a lot of that, and he just basically brings it to us and presents it, and then we go over things as a band. But I have zero complaints about the work we did with Svart. I'm very proud of Eradication, the record that we put out with them. I think that it in the time and the place we were as a band, it came out better than I ever could have imagined it would have, and I'm really proud of it. And I think that Svart's a great label. They've put out some great music, and they still put out great music right now. And I think that it was an honor to be on a label that puts out really cool stuff, and also saw something in us that at the time maybe someone else didn't see, and helped us push kind of forward to where other larger opportunities came our way that maybe wouldn't have.
So how did that sort of happen? Did you reach out to Svart? Did they reach out to you?
So I'm not 100% on that. I'll be honest with you. Svart came across in a conversation at band practice. Justin kind of came in like, "Hey,
Okay.
this label's like potentially on the table," and we knew who they were. I think that at some point, I don't know if Curtis had sent him something, or somehow we got across their radar, and they had expressed some interest in seeing what we were looking to do as a band. Like,
Got
are
you.
you a
Got
serious
you.
band? You've got this first record out. It's okay. It's not bad. You're doing another record, but what does that mean? Like, do you want to tour? Do you want to be a real band? And so the conversation got opened up. I don't know how, but I'm thankful for it eternally.
Real band. What does that mean?
Well, it's a weird thing. I don't want it to sound negative.
No, no. And actually, Ryan from Metal Blade used this term as well on our podcast, but
Well,
I'm
and
just curious what you think.
there's nothing wrong with being the kind of person who wants to play music with your friends, maybe play a local show here and there, record something, and that's it. Some of us are damaged and need to do more than that. So like, the first thing that most any label wants to know is, will you tour? Are you willing to tour, especially at the level that we were at when we first joined Smart Records? Because when you tour at that level, it is a grind. It is a hard grind with very little reward, and you advance in micro increments as a band. And so they wanted to see, like, are you guys serious? Is this something that you want to put time and effort into on a level that would warrant us showing you the attention and giving you our backing to put this record out? And like I said, I don't think that there's anything wrong with going either way. There's probably plenty of people out there who play covers on the weekend who are having a great time. It's just never been something I've been about, or the guys in my band. And so I think that was quickly established with Smart. Was like, yes, look, we're ready to tour. We want to write records. We want to put out records. We want to get on the road. We want to do this. So, yeah, that's basically what sealed the deal, I think, with us and Smart.
And then what did the process look like when you were being onboarded to Metal Blade? And how was that different?
So the process with Metal Blade was crazy because it happened during COVID. So like we started talking with Metal Blade right before, a few months, I think, before COVID really became the thing that anyone was talking about. You would hear things here and there about, like, oh, there's this thing happening, people are getting sick, but like we start really talking to Metal Blade like end of 2019 through early 2020, and like literally in the middle of negotiations, it's, hey guys, we're shutting our offices down. We'll be back in a few months. We'll resume then. And it's
okay.
Like, right. And so we're like, this may not happen. They might come back and say, hey, sorry, we're not signing anybody. Hey, sorry, we changed our mind. We had no idea. At that point, we didn't know if they would ever even get back to us. We were just like, okay, well, I guess we'll wait like the rest of the world is waiting right now and just hope for the best. And then I think it was like the day of or day after they opened, we got an email like, hey guys, we're ready to put this back on the table. Where are we at? That was a good feeling. I mean, they were still willing to step out and take a chance on us. And the cool thing about Metal Blade, I think, for me is that, like, a lot of times you sign to a label when you have an album ready and you're shopping it. We had nothing. We did not have a record.
I was so surprised to find out about that.
Isn't that crazy? Like, Metal Blade came to us and expressed an interest in our band. They had, I believe when we were shopping Eradication, they had heard Eradication. We had come across their radar. They had maybe even expressed a little interest in saying, all right, let's keep an eye on this band and see what they're doing. But yeah, they just reached out in a time when, like, it was kind of unusual to say, hey, we're interested in you guys, because we had nothing. We had been trying to tour off Eradication, and then COVID crushed it like everybody else. We had Eradication out, and we had plans for Europe and plans for South America. We had a date booked in Sri Lanka, a one-off, like all kinds of just wild shows that we were planning to try to get out and support the record we had just put out. And then, of course, like everybody else, COVID crushed it. So when they came to us and said, hey, look, we're interested in you guys, it was just wild to say, okay, well, whatever we have done, clearly we've made an impression. You guys are approaching us. We don't have a record to give you right now, but of course we want to talk to Metal Blade. Why would you not? They're one of the most historic and respected labels in heavy metal. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful they saw something. I don't know what it was or who it was that saw it, but every day I think about it, it just kind of like blows my mind, and it's awesome. But as far as like onboarding, sorry, I kind of skipped your question.
That's
and
okay.
I try not to be super long-winded. I'm really bad about it, but like, basically, like, they came to us and like once the deal was sealed, it was like, all right, well, write a record. And so that process started. But it was also kind of a weird time because it's like, write a record. Do we put it out? Do we wait? What do we do? No one can tour. No one's doing anything. Everyone's writing records. Like, and so then when things started opening up, it's like, okay, we'll get in the studio and record. And it's like, okay, and now what do we do? Everyone is putting out a record. Do you want to compete with like the top 50 bands in your genre at the same time? And it's been a very big obstacle course minefield situation where you have to be very careful what steps you take and the timing you do things with. So
For
I
sure.
wanted to quickly just ask you though, I know we're running out of time, Aaliyah, but if you can do it quick, Murphy. When you sign to a label like Metal Blade, do they start giving you input on the songwriting process, or is it you're still left alone?
well, so they definitely take an interest. We sent them updates along the way. We had basically a songwriting folder we would share with them where whenever we would write something new, everybody's got a home studio these days. If you're in music, it's too easy not to have one. So we would write something at Blaine's house or at one of our houses, and we would kind of cobble together an idea for a song. We would share that with our manager Cragen, and then once it became something we felt was worth showing them, we would send it to Metal Blade and kind of you get the, yeah, that's great, keep working on that, yeah, that's cool. But overall, I mean, it wasn't like a very hands-on thing. I think they kind of trusted us to do what we do and to know well enough that we should be putting out a effort worthy of them putting it out.
For my last, well, I got two more questions if we can fit
Okay,
them
I'll
in.
make them quick.
Okay. First, tips on DIY touring.
Oof. Oh man, DIY touring can be tough. So the number one thing, get a Planet Fitness membership and shower as much as you can, or you will get sick. You
Okay.
will 100% get sick. And people talk about that a lot, but like having showers goes so long, and sleep any chance you can, because being rested and being showered and clean will keep you healthy on the road. And that's it.
Did you say Planet Fitness membership?
Yeah, dude, because Planet Fitness has locations everywhere, and if you get the black card, then you can go take a shower.
You do.
I
Yep.
know.
And they're the cheapest gym that has like, as far as like cheapness, availability, like locations wise and all of that, all those factors, Planet Fitness has all of those things.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's become a pretty regularly known thing on tour now that like especially if you're doing van tours and you may not have enough money to get a hotel room every night, sometimes on those early DIY tours, you're lucky if you guys get a hotel on your day off once a week or something like that. So yeah, park in the parking lot of Planet Fitness, and when they open, or if they're 24 hours, whatever, like go in and get a shower. If you want to work out, keep yourself in good shape, but try not to eat total garbage all the time, and stay showered when you can and sleep when you can. That's the best thing I can say to anybody who wants to tour. As far as booking tours, that's a whole nother grind that like I could get into, but it would take a long time.
All right, maybe we'll have you back to talk about that.
Yeah.
And then finally, any tips for local openers to make life easier for the touring bands?
Ooh, good one.
Get on and off stage quickly. Know your set time. Know exactly when you're expected to be there and exactly when you're expected to be off. Do not disrespect that. I don't care if all your friends are there and they're screaming for one more song, pack your stuff and get it off the stage. Like, and be quick about it. I think that's one of the things early on that a lot of people noticed about us is we would show up. We had professional level gear. We presented ourselves well. We brought merch. We always had everything we looked bigger than we were from the start. Act like you've been there. That was always been our mantra. Like, act like you've been here before. Like, show up on time, respect the headlining band's time, and get on stage quickly, play your set, play your ass off, give them everything you've got, and then get off stage as fast as you can and enjoy the rest of the night.
And stick around for the whole show if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely, you don't want to be the guy who's like, the band who is on a tour package and you're the local opener, and all of a sudden you peel out after your set and your whole band and all your friends leave, and it's like, dude, why did you do this? Your
Yeah.
job is to be there to bring your crowd from your city so that this band can stay on tour. You're there to support that band. And I think that that goes a long way, just recognizing where you're at and why you're there, and and network with everybody. Talk to the tour manager, talk to the merch guy, talk to everyone in the band briefly, be cool, kill it, get off stage, have fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much for giving us your time tonight and talking to us. And yeah, we hope to have you back soon. We'll
Please,
talk
yeah.
about
I mean,
booking tours.
I hope we got to all your questions. Sorry, like I said, I try not to be so long winded, but sometimes I just keep going. So
No, all
I
good.
appreciate
All
you guys
good.
having me on. This is awesome. I love your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Everyone listening, I hope you learned something. And until next time, make like a bull and throw those horns up.